The Tapestry of Fate. Chapter 1. Darkane. How did I get myself into this? Awareness slammed back into me in a blur of noise and spinning vertigo. It felt like I was tumbling through the air, yet my body lay on hard-packed ground. Even my heartbeat throbbed painfully through my skull. Can this get any worse? I thought, right as the spinning finally began to fade. A sharp pop cracked in front of me for what must have been the fifth or seventh time, like burning wood. Through my eyelids I saw the flicker of red firelight. I cracked one eye open, the other was sealed shut by something dried against my temple. When I tried to reach up, my arms wouldn't move, tied behind my back. Cotton rope at least, I thought dryly as I tested my legs. A lot of it, too. Then came the wet, open-mouthed chewing of someone eating. I held my tongue until a rib snapped and the slurping of marrow followed. I listened for other voices. Nothing. Just him, and he was definitely male. Judging by the greedy noises, he wasn't planning on sharing. I lifted my head, a ring of sticks and twigs about a yard thick between me and the fire. We were in a forest clearing, but the leaves were wrong, green with deep violet centers, and the sky held twin crescent moons I definitely didn't recognize. Panic struck as I searched my memory and found nothing. What the heck happened to me? I shouted towards the fire. A low, sinister chuckle answered. About time you woke up, hero. He paused to gnaw on his meal. You cost me a job worth 20 mithril talents, you agroth. All I had to do was deliver Nikki after the tribute, and we'd all be on our way. Great, I thought bitterly. Aloud I asked, and me, what am I worth? Maybe a quarter of that. Then I heard the grin in his voice as he says, beating you till you submit might make up the difference. Right, about that, I hesitated. Then shifted my question. Is there anything I can offer you so we can go our separate ways? He laughed hard, which was not encouraging. Sure, tell me where your technology is. That threw me. With no memories, I had no idea what he meant. You have to be more specific. Plenty of things count as technology. He growled, your healing, your speed, your unbreakable skeleton, your strength. What do you think I mean? Pieces started to click into place. Familiar terms surfaced. Okay, I said slowly. My strength comes from about 30% muscle replacement with NT fibers, a bit beyond the upper limit Dr. Hall would approve. NT fibers, he repeated. Muscle tech fibers, nanotubing with pneumatic and hydraulic actions. Makes me stronger than the guys who spend their whole lives getting buff. His voice twisted with disgust. Inside your body? Cybernetics, I said, grinning. Want to hear about the speed booster? I'm afraid to ask, he muttered, tossing more wood onto the flame. The C-HAP only replaces a tiny bit of gray matter in a sensitive spot. He hesitated before speaking again. Is all your technology inside you? Everything you want to know about, I said, and pulled hard against my restraints, the ropes creaking, then tightened. Since my strength is greater than normal, it's wire rope of yours, he said smugly. So don't bother. Yeah, that would do it, I muttered, stopping when pain flooded my shoulders. Silence stretched too long. Finally, I asked, what's your name? He waited just as long before answering. You know my name. I don't even know my own, I admit. He muttered something like, guess the second hit did do some damage. What second hit? I demanded. He stood, stepping into the firelight. Blue scales, hornless draconic features, cord-like brown hair brushing his shoulders, a dark cloak partially hiding light blue armor. In his hand, a sledgehammer of red metal. I blurted, what the heck are you, some kind of lizard man? He moved in a blur, leaving the fire, fist raised. There was a burst of pain and impact, and then nothing. Should have kept my mouth shut. Awareness returned, mercifully without the spinning this time. The ground was steady, the fire still crackled, and I remembered what happened before I blacked out. Unfortunately, the headache remained. I recalled him leaping over the flames. Then I think I remembered he'd said what he was, but the name of his race didn't come to mind. I was still tied up, lying exactly where he'd left me. His low, steady snoring drifted from the other side of the fire, mixed with insect droning that reminds me of cicadas. I scanned the area for anything useful. Sticks and twigs everywhere. Fire ringed with large stones. I checked myself next. My belt was still around my waist, more like a monster harness with a crossover strap and a metal shoulder cap. And memory flickered. A magnetic plate on my back for something important. Then frustration washed over me. Damn this amnesia, I thought. As my fingers traced along my belt, a hidden compartment slid open. This is my utility belt, tools, and there, the handle I needed. I slipped out my vibro utility knife. It could cut almost anything, including the wire rope. But with my hands bound, the angle was terrible. After a few coils were cut, the blade slipped, slicing across my left palm. The cut felt deep. A hiss escaped me before I clamped down on the pain. Warm blood trickled down my wrist. Then, within seconds, the pain faded. I worked the rope apart, twisting and tugging until coils loosened enough to slip free. I froze when Razzlin's snoring hitched. Either a deep breath or a bug crawled in. I shuddered at the thought of me eating bugs while unconscious. He mumbled something, then settled back into rhythm. I checked my hand again. No wound, just a fading pink line. Healing, right. Then a memory snapped back into place. Razzlin, and his race, Draken, and my own name, Darkane. I smiled. The amnesia won't last forever. Urgency tugged at me, something important I needed to return to, someone's life depending on it, but that part of my memory was locked away. Once my ankles were free, I stood slowly and stretched the stiffness from my back. A few vertebrae popped loudly. I shot a look at Razzlin, still asleep. I studied him in the firelight, blue scales, cloak draped over him, armor catching the glow. Only when I was sure he was fully asleep did I look for an escape route. The ring of sticks around me was a trap, noisemakers to wake him if I stepped wrong. So I just dropped to hands and knees and crawled through them, inch by inch. Halfway through, irritation flared. This would piss off the Pope. Then I had to think, who the heck is a Pope? By the time I slipped free, I scanned his side of the camp. His red metal sledgehammer, the maul of great weakness, I vaguely recalled, rested within arm's reach. Looks like a sledgehammer to me. Next to it lay a massive single-edged blade, my blade, the Grand Cleaver. I crept toward it. End this quietly, I told myself as I grabbed the handle. But when I lifted it, stones scraped loudly against the steel. Razzlin was on his feet instantly, sledgehammer in hand. He quickly made a swipe with his sledgehammer. Well, smeg, I muttered, raising the Grand Cleaver and getting out of range. Should have known that was a trigger. As soon as I broke out of range, Razzlin lunged, and the world slipped into slow motion. The CHAP had kicked in. People used to call it bullet time, the cerebral hyper accelerator processor. I just grinned and prepared to bat that sledgehammer out of his hands. But I forgot the biggest flaw of the CHAP. Sure, I see things slow, but I move slow too. My swing wasn't going to make it, so instead I hunched forward, shifted left, and braced for pain. My shoulder cap took the hit and exploded into fragments. Thankfully, the buckle kept the strap connected. Then, out of nowhere, a punch smashed into my face. Honestly, I was too busy checking if the harness strap was still secure. The shock dropped me to one knee. With one knee planted, I finally reacted. As he wound up for a kick, I caught his ankle and began to stand, lifting him with me. I still don't know how far I could throw someone, but I had to find out. Otherwise, the phrase, "I can't trust them as far as I could throw them," means nothing. As Razlan raised his weapon again, I twisted toward my rear and felt how heavy he truly was as I dragged him off balance. My MT fiber surged into overdrive, and with everything I had, I launched him a decent distance. Yup, I thought with a smirk. Can't use that phrase anymore. He went flying, clawing at the dirt to reorientate himself. Then he slid several yards like some kind of anime character. He looked ready to charge again. I never fought someone with combat instincts that mirrored mine. I lowered my stance and forced myself to think faster. He rushed. To counter, I raised my sword over my shoulder with both hands. He reacted exactly how I predicted, sliding to a stop. But I wasn't ready for what came next. 3 knives hammered into my chest. I ripped them out, coughing blood. All 3 slipped past my ribs, lung shots. Fueled by raw rage, I lunged with my blade low, dropping one hand for balance. Razlan prepared to charge again, but he halted. I had the angle this time. I swung and barely missed him, but the air itself detonated outward with a shock wave. "What the" was all I managed before the sensation hit me. I knew this feeling. I've used this ability countless times. Razlan and half the forest behind him flew back. Branches, debris, everything scattered. He slammed spine first into a tree. Breath blasted out of him. I rushed forward in a shoulder charge. When I was only a couple of yards away, he darted to my blind side. I collided with the tree hard, my left shoulder screaming. I spun towards where he moved. Nothing. Then, movement above me, a whisper of sound. Razlan dropped from the branches behind me, sledgehammer raised for another concussion. When I angled my sword up to impale him, the fear and hatred on his face said everything. We crashed down together, Razlan landing on top of me, my sword jutting through his back. I felt the warm spill of his blood soaking me. I shoved him off and tore the blade free, ensuring the wound was fatal. Standing over him, I watched him cling to life. "What are you waiting for, Agroth?" He spat, venom and hatred thick in his voice. Blood bubbled at his lips like a curse. "Who am I?" I asked quietly. "Where did I come from?" Without thinking, I slotted my sword onto the magnetic plate at my back. He grinned, spat at me, and rasped, "I'd like to know myself." With that whisper, he went still. I stared for several minutes, numb. "You really didn't leave me a choice," I whispered. I bent down and closed his eyes. Under his cloak, a light blue breastplate glinted. I debated on taking it, then turned towards his bedroll and bags instead. Looting a dead man never sat right with me. One pack was sealed, his. The other was empty, its contents piled beside it. On the pile sat my comm phone and a heavy pistol. I picked up the phone and powered it on. Emergency protocol activated. Everything sensitive locked out. Thankfully, the music player still worked. I shut the screen off and clipped it back to my belt. I picked up the pistol, locked. A yellow light blinked. Closing my eyes, I tried to guess what code I would use. Alpha, Theta, 13, Pi, 42, Omega. To my surprise, the light turned green. I holstered it on my left thigh and packed the rest of my belongings. My sword rested between me and the backpack. When I finished, I glanced at Raslin's pack. I grabbed it and paused. Something flapped in the distance. Heavy wings, maybe two creatures. The campfire was huge and bright. This might be a meeting spot, I thought. On my way past Raslin's body, I grabbed his red sledgehammer. Then I sprinted into the forest in a random direction. With no fire, I was nearly blind, but within a minute, my eyes adjusted enough to move. I know something big is out here, I whispered as I put distance between me and the corpse. Into the strange dark forest. Yeah, something's definitely going to try and eat me. I pushed blindly through the woods in a random direction. Just enough moonlight filtered in for me to catch bits of movement. Then it hit me. I still had the infrared camera on my comm phone. I kept walking until I was far enough from the campsite that the phone's glow wouldn't give me away. Whatever those winged things were, they were close to landing. No need to paint a target on myself. Once the campfire's glow faded completely, I ducked behind a tree thick enough to hide me. I pulled out the comm phone and tapped the screen. Its sudden brightness stabbed into my eyes, sending my headache into overdrive. I growled at myself, probably the dumbest moment of the night so far. I hope nothing stupid decides I'm a food source, I muttered. Unlocking the basic apps was easy. If my memory were trustworthy, I set it to unlock Tier 1 functions after a week of biometrics access, and another tier each week after. But with my faulty memory, that was risky. For now, the basic camera is enough, I whispered as I activated it. Infrared bathed the forest in invisible light, letting the camera augment my sight. But every unfamiliar sound made me swing the camera toward it. The forest was alive with noises I didn't recognize. Trees creaking, insects chittering, animals calling in voices I'd never heard. My imagination wasn't helping either. About an hour passed, according to the timestamp, before I found a lone structure, an abandoned building swallowed by time. I circled it and scanned the inside through a gap in the wall, just decay and critters. Nearby, a half-rotten stump offered a place to sit. Luminescent mushrooms glowed in a faint ring not far off, their colors shifting softly like a slow dance. Across from me lay a narrow clearing, a slit in the canopy where the sky opened clean and sharp. The stars were impossibly bright, unfamiliar, strange yet calling to me. For the first time in what felt like forever, the calm washed through me. Alone in this pocket of forgotten time, the peace felt unreal. I took my time studying the area, recording everything with my comm phone for later. Eventually, the noises of something moving nudged me on. A strange shape hid in the shadows. Another ruined building tangled in vines. After a few minutes of watching, I stood and approached. A dry stream bed ran beside it, along with the remains of a water paddle wheel. One kick or a strong gust would have knocked it over. Then something jingled under my boot. I picked up a worn leather pouch barely holding itself together. Cutting it open revealed several coins. Switching the camera to color detection, a feature I completely forgot exists, I examined them. A few gold coins, a handful of silver, all about the size of a dime. One face bore a hornless dragon head with a mane-like crest. The other held a crown of some kind. I pocketed them and eyed the ruined wheel again. Judging by its setup, I oriented myself upstream and followed the dry bed. It has to lead to some kind of settlement, I reasoned. After about an hour, dawn began to bleed in. Shortly after, I heard rushing water. I climbed out of the stream bed and followed the sound, moving faster now. Eventually, I saw the truth. This was an overflow channel. I stood atop a 5-foot drop into silty ground. My comm phone pinged flecks of gold dust in the silt. I chuckled as I realized I found a gold miner's camp. Then I hopped down. Birds began their morning calls, still all unfamiliar. The ground shifted from soft dirt to pebbles and stones. Breaking free of the trees, I stepped onto a wide rocky beach beside a river of rapids. The far bank opened into fields, but the current made crossing impossible for now. I settled on a large flat boulder and leaned my sword beside it. Okay, what do I even have here? I asked myself. I unpacked my gear, sorting what was mine. Basic linen clothes, a brown tunic, inside which a silver cigarette pack sized container fell out. It opened to reveal 2 bags, one of tobacco, one of weed, plus a pipe. A compartment held an ion torch power cell. I packed the pipe with a blend, lit a dry stick, and took a slow pull. Use it sparingly, I reminded myself. Don't know when I'll get more. Continuing through my pack, I found caseless bullets, MREs, hunting tools, nothing that told me where I came from. I repacked everything neatly. Razlan's backpack held a wooden lockbox, a cloak, dried meat, a half wheel of cheese of pale greenish, half a wheel of pale greenish cheese. It smelled odd but tasted good. His money pouch held mostly gold and a single coin made from a light blue metal. Lighter than aluminum, harder than steel. I pocketed it. I cut open the lockbox hinges with my utility knife. Inside were vials of powders and liquids, and a leather-wrapped bundle containing lockpicks. Fine work, made of red and green metals. I kept the tools and tossed the rest. While chewing meat and cheese, I stored the remainder in my pack. The sun crested the tree line to the east, lighting the rapids downstreams. With a yawn, I lay down on the boulder to rest before choosing upstream or downstream. But sleep didn't come right away. Questions crowded my head. Then the heavier thought returned, the one I'd forgotten until now, the urge to return home, and fast. It came with a weight, a dread I didn't understand. I hope I get my memories back soon, I whispered as I finally drifted towards sleep.